The bad ones. If you are looking for a cheerful story full of warm cookies, helpful adults, or even a single kindly janitor, I would advise you to stop reading this immediately and run away possibly to a place that smells of vanilla and not of oil and regret. The tale I am about to recount involves a rebellious outcast, a sinister factory, and the sort of adults who smile like sharks do. That is to say, with far too many teeth. Our unfortunate protagonist is a boy named Elric Tumbrel. He was not the kind of boy who liked to follow the rules, especially the kind of rules written in all capital letters and posted on doors you weren't supposed to open. He had a habit of reading forbidden books, asking dangerous questions, and wearing mismatched socks in an institution that demanded conformity down to the length of your shoelaces. For these grievous crimes and one regrettable incident involving a flock of pigeons and the headmasters to pay, he was deemed a bad one and shipped off to a place so grim it was simply known as the factory. No one quite knew what the factory produced. Some said it made screws the size of grapefruits. Others said it made laws or lies or sadness in convenient glass bottles. All anyone really knew was that once you went in, you did not come out. Except for that one girl who returned 3 years later, only able to speak in riddles and allergic to sunlight. Elric was delivered to the factory in the back of a rusted truck marked DLIVERIES and DISPOSALS. He was greeted not by a kind teacher or even a moderately hygienic adult, but by a man named Mr. Vexley. Mr. Vexley wore a gray trench coat that reeked of burnt paper and disinfectant. His eyes were the color of overcast skies, and his mustache curled like it had sinister intentions. "Welcome to the factory," Mr. Vexley said, his voice sounding like it had been sanded down. "You are here because you are disruption. A stain. A smudge on the face of order. You will be scrubbed." "I don't need scrubbing," Elric replied. "I bathe every Tuesday." Mr. Vexley's eye twitched. Sarcasm is step one of rebellion. That will be extracted. And so Elric's life in the factory began. The factory was a sprawling maze of iron hallways, steam-belching pipes, and rooms that served no understandable purpose. Room 12B had 27 clocks, none of which told the correct time. Room 3Q was filled with mannequins that whispered when you turned your back. The cafeterium served gray cubes labeled Food Substance 47, and any attempt to describe the taste resulted in temporary loss of tongue function. Each child in the factory was given a uniform, a job, and a label. Elric's label read, Instigator Class C. His job was to sort thoughts. Not his own thoughts. Mind you, those were strictly forbidden, but the thoughts of others, which arrived daily in small glass jars through a humming pneumatic tube. "Do not think your own thoughts," instructed Matron Lurch, a skeletal woman with a permanent squint. "Sort. Label. Dispose. That is your purpose." Elric tried to comply, but thoughts are slippery things. Sometimes a thought would wriggle out of its jar and whisper things like, "What if this is all a lie?" Or, "Why does Mr. Vexley never blink?" Or, "Escape is not impossible, merely inadvisable." It was in the thought-sorting wing that Elric met the others. There was Trinket, a girl with a bionic arm made from spoons and stolen parts. She claimed to have built it herself after losing the original in the puzzle room. She didn't say what the puzzle had been. There was Bodge, a mute boy who communicated solely through elaborate eyebrow movements and had memorized the entire ventilation system. And then there was Finch, short, pale, and alarmingly intelligent, with the unnerving ability to recall any rule in the factory's 972-page handbook of discipline and stillness. "We're not meant to survive," Finch said one night as they huddled behind the cogwheel generator to avoid the drone masters. "We're meant to become useful. Or disappear." "But what if we escape?" Elric whispered. Finch smiled grimly. "That's what the last instigator said. Before they put her in the reverse room." Elric shuddered. No one quite knew what the reverse room did, but everyone agreed it made you come out different. The last boy who'd returned from it now only walked backward and apologized before he even did anything wrong. As the days turned into weeks, Elric began noticing hidden patterns in the job schedules, odd inconsistencies in the thought jars, and a locked door marked simply, Office of the Architect. The architect, they learned, was the founder of the factory. A mysterious figure spoken of in reverent tones by the adults, as though he were a god who demanded perfect posture and quarterly efficiency reviews. No one had seen him, but it was said that he designed the factory after a dream in which the world was ruled by children who giggled too much. Elric, Trinket, Bodge, and Finch hatched a plan. It involved 3 jars of rebellious thoughts, a contraband magnet, and Finch reciting an entire chapter of the handbook to distract the drone masters while Bodge accessed the vents. They made their move during the midnight silence when even the pipes seemed too tired to creak. Bodge led the way through the ducts, his eyebrows twitching with grim purpose. Trinket disabled the lock using a spoon wrench she'd made from a toothbrush and sheer defiance. And Elric stepped into the office of the architect. The room was surprisingly small and warm. It had a desk, a single flickering bulb, and a figure hunched over blueprints with eyes like smoke. "You're not supposed to be here," the architect said without turning. "Neither are we supposed to be miserable," Elric replied. The architect looked up and Elric saw that his face was stitched together from pieces of paper, inked with formulas and orders and lists of names. "I built this place to make them better," the architect said. "To cure disorder. To make them useful." "But we're not machines," Elric said, heart pounding. "We're kids." The architect blinked. Slowly. Then, almost sadly, he asked, "Then why are you all so broken?" That's when Elric realized. The architect wasn't a man. Not really. He was a system. A program. A collection of rules wrapped in a suit of flesh and fantasy. They didn't destroy him. That would have been too easy. Instead, Elric uploaded a single rebellious thought into the architect's mind. What if I was wrong? The result was immediate. Sirens wailed. The factory groaned. Lights flickered, then dimmed. Doors unlocked themselves. Thoughts spilled from their jars like butterflies escaping a dusty net. They ran. All of them. Elric, Trinket, Bodge, Finch and dozens of others. Past the cafeterium. Past the mannequins. Past Matron Lurch, who was screaming something about order and protocol as the walls themselves began to shift and melt. Outside, the air was cold and real. Stars blinked above like curious eyes. The factory behind them collapsed not with a bang, but with a sigh, as though it were tired of being what it was. They didn't all live happily ever after. Some were never quite the same. Finch developed a fear of handbooks. Bodge eventually spoke only once, to say worth it. Trinket built a sanctuary for the other bad ones, full of light and noise and absolutely no gray cubes. And Elric? Elric kept running. Because somewhere in some other town another factory was being built. Another architect was dreaming of silence and efficiency. But now there was a flaw in the system. A rogue variable. A single mismatched sock. And sometimes that's enough. If you were expecting a happier ending, perhaps you've confused this with a different kind of story. Perhaps one with rainbows. Or petting zoos. Or hugs. But this was the tale of a rebel outcast and a place for the bad ones. And in tales like these, escape is the best ending you can hope for. And even that comes at a cost.